Hello, my name is Amber DeVere, and in case you don't know me already, I am the Programme Manager for the Animal Degree courses here at Plumpton. This talk and presentation will be particularly useful for those of you who are interested in our degree courses at Plumpton, but hopefully it will also be useful for those of you who might be on the fence about going to university, who think you might want to go to university elsewhere outside of Plumpton, or even if you just want to know a bit more about what it involves. So at Plumpton we have two degree courses, the Foundation degree in Applied Animal Behaviour and Conservation and our BSc Honours Applied Behaviour and Welfare top-up. There are other animal related degree courses at Plumpton, including the Foundation degree in Equine Science and Coaching, as well as the Foundation degree in Veterinary Nursing. So if you would like to know more about those, I'd encourage you to have a look on the Plumpton website. So the first thing I wanted to tell you a bit about is basically the difference between a foundation degree and a bachelor's degree. Typically the degrees you probably heard about before will be 3-year courses, and that will be a bachelor degree, a Bachelor of Science or a Bachelor of Arts, so a BSc or a BA. So a foundation degree is a 2-year course. It is like the first 2 years of a bachelor's degree. So it's what we call levels 4 and 5. So you may be studying level 3 at the moment, or A-level equivalent. And so the first year of a degree is level 4, second year is level 5. So a bachelor's degree would involve then the third year, which is level 6, and a BSc top-up or a BA top-up would be a bachelor's top-up course, which is just 1 year, and that is just the level 6 year. So why you might want to consider a foundation degree rather than a 3-year bachelor's degree, one of the main reasons is having flexible options. So our students are able to complete a course in 2 years, they get a degree, qualifies them over those first 2 levels, and then they have the option of whether they would like to go straight on and complete that third year equivalent, that level 6 year, by completing a top-up course, or whether they want to go straight into employment, if they want to take a gap, or if they want to perhaps look at a more specialised top-up. So our foundation degree and many foundation degrees might have some more general content, they might cover more broad areas, and then you could go on to a BSc top-up in a more specific area of interest. Many of our students do go straight into employment out of their foundation degree, and we have several that then come back a number of years later to do that top-up course. So it just increases your flexibility. You're locked in for 2 years rather than 3 years full-time. So at Plumpton, our foundation degree is the Applied Animal Behaviour and Conservation. So these are our first year modules. Our course is very broad. It covers behaviour, welfare, ecology, conservation, as well as the kind of general skills that would help you in degree study. Our study and research skills module is the main one that will help you with that. We also have what may seem like a slightly more unusual, the introduction to business. That is because when we developed the course, employers basically told us that lots of graduates knew a lot about animals, but not much about working in a business environment. So that's really helpful for employability. Animal biology is a huge part of the first year of our course. It's worth 1/4 of the whole year. It is the only module on the whole course that is entirely exam based. So it's all closed book exams. We cover health and welfare, conservation, management of animal collections, so learning about everything there is to know about how to work in an animal collection of varying types, from zoos to petting farms, to rescue centres, all sorts of different collections, and animal behaviour and communication to give that really solid foundation in behaviour. In our second year, unlike the first year, there are some optional modules. So a lot of it is still compulsory. So we have independent inquiry, which is where you conduct a short research project, work placement, so that is built into the course, you get experience, and quite frequently our students end up going into work with their placements once they finish the course. Sampling methods in conservation, so actually how do you do conservation in practice, not just the theory. Animal behaviour management, so again sort of applying what you learn about behaviour in the first year to actually managing behavioural problems in animals. Animal welfare and ethics, and then our optional modules. So in animal learning and training, you actually do some practical animal training. One of the assignments is a video of you conducting training sessions. Wildlife conservation is one of our particularly popular options that involves, with an additional cost, a field trip to South Africa. Behavioural ecology and research and statistics, and that last one is needed for those students who would like to go on to the top up here at Plumpton. It's also just really useful for anyone who'd like to go on to a top up anywhere. In terms of what's practically involved day to day in the course, full-time study is 2 or 3 days of timetabled lectures per week. So at the moment, students have 2.5 days a week. This is a full-time course, so although we try and put all of the content, all of the contact time into as few days as possible to make it as sort of efficient as possible to avoid unnecessary travel, it is a full-time course, so you should expect to be studying, working on your course for 5 full days out of the week. Our course can be studied part-time, and that will be arranged on kind of a custom basis, depending on the timetable, again to reduce the sort of travel to come onto site, and that will be 1 to 1.5 days of lectures per week, and part-time is half-time essentially, so you'd expect to study about 2.5 days per week. Our course is an academic course. Degree courses tend to be highly academic. Ours has more practical components than perhaps in a lot of university courses, but it is ultimately at heart an academic course. There are really only perhaps 10% practical components, so that's really important just to consider. For our entry requirements, we require GCSE Maths, English and Science and at least 1 additional GCSE, so 4 GCSEs, including those 3, at a grade 4 or C or above. A level 3 extended diploma in a science related subject, so that could include the Animal Management level 3 extended diploma at a triple merit, including a minimum of a merit in the biology module, and that is because of the really quite challenging biology content in that module in the first year of the course, which is all exam based. Alternatively, if you have A levels, you'd be looking at 2 A levels at C, including at least 1 of biology, chemistry or physics, or equivalent would be an HE Access course with 2/3 merit and a 1/3 at pass level. If you feel like you might be borderline on some of this or you're not sure about it, then the best thing to do is just get in touch with me and I discuss with students kind of on more an individual basis. I'm going to give you a brief look at what our top-up course involves, just so you have a bit of an idea. So top-up includes largely quite big modules that you study really in depth, so animal cognition and neuroscience, animal welfare and law, a really big independent research project, and then 3 optional modules of which students pick 2, and this is companion animal behaviour and counselling, human-animal interactions or contemporary advances in animal behaviour. And again, in terms of the practical elements for completing the course, it's again a full-time course, so 5 days of study per week, but a bit less in terms of contact time, so up to 2 days of lectures a week, and again can be studied part-time. The top-up is sort of even more academic focused, with really only maybe 5% practical elements, and it is extremely heavy research project focus. The entry requirements for the top-up require a foundation degree in a relevant subject, so such as our foundation degree. Usually about 2/3 of the students that complete our foundation degree come onto our top-up course. 55% is the level that we sort of recommend for students to be able to really succeed on the top-up course. And having statistics, so such as our optional module on the foundation degree, again is really important because it really supports that project component on the top-up course. So just wanted to talk a little bit about the various different things that you might get to do on either of the courses. Now, obviously, this year is not a typical year. However, usually we would take students on several trips. So go to various zoos. This top left picture, I think it would top left for you, is from Colchester Zoo, from a behind the scenes on animal training with their sea lions. The top right was a picture from when we organised a marine mammal medic training course that was optional, sort of an extra little qualification that students could get. Our bottom left is one of our lecturers, Emma, with two of her dogs in that picture, Cooper and Z. And so we use some of the staff members' dogs as part of those more practical components, so like the second year foundation degree training module. The bottom middle picture is, of course, from our South Africa field trip, which is usually a highlight for anyone who goes on it of the whole course. And bottom right is a field trip from our second years, where we went to apply some of those practical conservation sampling methods at a nature reserve. So we do go on various kind of different extracurricular trips that are typically, you know, included in the tuition cost, so it's all part of the course, but those of course vary a bit from year to year. So we have a number of staff, sort of core staff members. Obviously myself, I'm the programme manager, and for my background, I have a PhD, master's degree, which I got in a marine mammal behaviour lab, focusing on seal and sea lion behaviour and welfare mostly, but also looking at environmental psychology, which is basically how can you get people to behave in a more environmentally friendly way, when usually people are quite opposed to even very small changes if it has any sort of inconvenience attached to it. We have our one of our other core lecturers, Jenny Watkins, who also has a PhD focusing in neuroscience, and so she teaches our animal biology, health, neuroscience on the top up, and also has a long-standing interest in wildlife conservation, so she is who runs our South Africa field trip. Jess Hooper, currently completing her PhD, her master's is in primatology, and her particular expertise is in zoo animal behaviour and welfare, as well as wildlife tourism and trade. So her PhD looking at civets and the civet industry in terms of making, you may have heard of Kopi Luwak, which is one of the world's most expensive types of coffee produced using civets. Emma Quigley, her background is largely in domestic animals in terms of training, rescue, rehabilitation, and so she lectures on our animal training modules, our companion animal counselling, and then Emily, who's our practical supervisor, who helps with our first years in particular on the foundation degree in our animal centre. So I wanted to tell you a bit about what you might expect based on studying somewhere that maybe is a particularly large university versus studying somewhere like Plumpton or similar. So at a large university, you would have lectures where you would typically have maybe 100 or even several hundred students in a cohort, so in a year group, and in lectures. So that kind of middle picture there shows a fairly typical university setup. You'd usually have several lecturers per module that would all come in and just lecture on their particular area for perhaps a few lectures. At either a small university or a college, so like us, like our partner institution, the Royal Agricultural University, or a lot of other colleges, you have what we call more classes, and the reason we call them that, or might say that, is because we have much smaller groups, and so they are not so much someone standing in front of the room and just talking at you for a few hours. They're very much interactive. When you ask questions, you do tasks, you really participate with the lecturer and with each other. You will have smaller groups, so for our groups they usually range between about 15 to 25 students in a year group, so it's a bit more kind of one-to-one with your staff, and you'll know the whole group pretty well. You'll have a tutor who will look after you that generally is looking after fewer students, and you might have a single module leader, so one person, one staff member that will be in charge of the whole module, perhaps two, so you'll kind of develop more of a one-to-one relationship with them, and often small universities or colleges offer degrees in more specialist subjects. So that's exactly the case for us. We have a very specialist team, and we offer this sort of one specific area of study. So something that I think is really important for you to consider is how is studying at university different to level 3 or A-level equivalent? And really one of the biggest ways is that it's just far more independent. So you really are at university level responsible for your own learning, and that includes finding resources. It's your responsibility to ask questions, not just waiting for staff to do things for you or answer questions for you. You are responsible for following assignment specifications and structuring your own time. So for instance, we would summarise assignments with you maybe in the first week of a module, and after that it's the student's responsibility to work on that assignment and make sure that they submit it on time. It's not going to be prompted, it's not going to be gone over again multiple times during classes. And there are strict submission deadlines, so if you miss a deadline, that's it. There are, of course, extenuating circumstances and processes. So if something, bad happens in terms of illness or various other things, you can apply for things like extensions. However, if you miss the deadline, then by our regulations, marks are capped at a pass. And there's no sort of wiggle room with that. And that's pretty typical of other universities and degree courses. And finally, thinking about why you might want to study a degree, I would strongly recommend thinking really long and hard about it. Degrees are fantastic if you are really, really interested in an area, you want to know more about it in greater depth and you really enjoy studying. They're also really good if you know that the career you would like to go into will either require a degree or will really be helped by you having a degree. Now, many animal-related jobs don't require that. I've found some examples. Some of these are a little bit older from earlier in the year. Some of them are much more recent in the last sort of month or two. And these are all animal-related jobs that either require a degree or strongly prefer that applicants have a degree. And as you can see, these really range from being a technician to be a conservation officer to being a zookeeper, to animal lecturer. And for some of these positions, so for example zookeeper, it will depend on where you are looking. I know that some zoos really prefer their staff to have degrees and some don't care as much and they would prefer having more years, for example, of experience in the field. So what I'd recommend is if you're not sure, if you're on the fence or you think that maybe you might need a degree for the career you're interested in, have a look at current jobs or past job postings and see what the person specification is, see what's being asked for, and if a degree is really necessary, then perhaps that is something that you would need to look at to really pursue that career. If it's not, and you don't think you're really that keen on studying further at a higher level, then take some time and don't jump straight into it. It's a really big time commitment, it's a really big financial commitment, and so it's really important that you're really sure about it. So that is it from me. If anyone has any questions or you would like to have a discussion about anything related to the course or your qualifications, for example, please feel free to drop me an email at any time and I will get back to you.